I was wondering if you wanted to expand on that position a little bit of exactly why it was propaganda and what type of standards you would hold for LonerBox to do interviews like this in the future.
I haven't checked in on what you've been doing recently, but I know you've kept on with just all your coverage from out there, and I think it's really awesome what you're doing. Just kind of having someone on Twitch who really has that sort of familiarity with the area, and just also, you just alluded to it, but I'm sure you're putting yourself in harm's way here and there, or maybe often. And so, I think that's really, really awesome, honestly. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would be so encouraged by me being in harm's way. I don't know why that would be so fantastic. But I mean, sure, yeah.
Okay. I guess that came out a little wrong there. I just mean that it's, it takes balls. And we need people out there that are, that are willing to take that risk. And so, I respect that. That's kind of what I meant. I didn't mean like.
Well, no, I
really
I got you.
I
mean, I agree, and in fact, I would say one of the biggest issues in not only the leftist space, but just in commentary, period, is that everybody wants to be like a multi-tool on every issue. Where if something comes up in the news, and you're trying to stream 24/7, you need constant content. So everything's content. Every piece of news is content. And so what you got is people who don't really know much about the topic, and all of a sudden they're trying to tell people what the RSF in Sudan is, or X, Y, and Z. And so I think that if we had more streamers just concentrating on one area and then relying on each other's knowledge, we could produce a more informative space. We could produce a more productive space. I think a lot of us go much farther with much more authentic journalism.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. The kind of danger comes in with like, if somebody kind of gets captured somehow, either like just kind of has like a kind of a cult mentality, or if they're like just being paid off, yada yada yada. But I'm sure, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But ideally, absolutely, I agree with you. It would be amazing to have kind of a network of lefties, hopefully lefties, who are just proficient with one thing. Unfortunately, that it's so counterintuitive to what I think the news space, or I should not the news space, but I just mean those who consume politics. Like I think overall, people want to see people who are talking about a whole fucking range of things, and then you got your like Asmongold's who will talk about like the titty size of video game characters, and then also kind of talk about news, but in a really like brainless slop kind of way. So it's like everybody has to compete with that, but no, I'm with you though. So
1 second, quickly. Danabo, my editor, hates me, and he's telling me that I haven't given you an intro, and so I want to make sure that you introduce yourself. Who are you? I just want everyone to know I knew Vadim when I was in high school, not personally, but I was one of many people who got to know him through his lovely feline creationist cat back in the day, watching those skits and stuff. That was I wouldn't say it was a big part of my childhood, but I watched the videos when they came up in my feed, and that's how I knew Vadim. And I always appreciated that content you made back then. What are you doing now these days, man?
Well, basically, I am going to be coming back to content creation. About like 2022, the end of it was my last video, but I don't even know if I'd consider it like a real video. I mean, I did kind of put like a lot of effort into it. There's animation and stuff like that. But what I was basically doing was that I was basically kind of like reaching out to my community and saying like, hey, I'm having like a lot of experience with like health issues these days. I think you know that to at least to a small extent, and maybe with, I forget exactly like I probably maybe even said it like a bunch of times, but in the LonerBox video, maybe I alluded to my sleep issues. They're no joke. I mean, it's not just insomnia. I have like kind of like these, sometimes they feel like seizures and shit. It's pretty complicated. Don't need to go into it, but it's really like slowed down my ability to kind of just perform in a whole bunch of ways. And I think I'm getting kind of like used to it, which is why I think I'm getting back to content. But other than that, I'm a caregiver for my mother. She's 91 years old, and we're kind of like all the family that we have. So in kind of like that there's that too, and that makes things challenging. But yeah, other than that, I've just been kind of very envious of people like yourself who are not in America to like
You can
just
come here.
watch.
I'll bring you.
I
I can
can
bring you to
get,
Покrovsk if you want.
man, that would be fucking cool as hell. I have responsibilities with my mom because of her advanced age and kind of like where she is. But
No
here and
higher
there, I
calling.
get, what's that?
No higher calling.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, yes, I agree. Um, but yeah, but every now and then I can get like people to kind of like take over my role for a while. So I don't know. Maybe I would take you up on
If
it.
you want, you can
Um,
bring your 91-year-old mother as well. She can come to Покrovsk too.
dude. I mean, I think she'd be like down
You've seen the
to
ages of some of the people
join,
serving here.
join the fight.
She could get
Like,
an Azov. You know, she could be an Azov commander.
yeah, well, I think she'd want to like work her way up. She doesn't like, she doesn't like a free meal ticket. But I'm sure she could just, seriously bust some ass out there. Love to see her just mowing down some. You know what? I'm not going to go there. But anyway, one other thing that I want to say is that I really like your sweater there. It looks like sort of like a postmodern take on the classic Cosby sweater of the 80s. So I like it.
Thank you. My boyfriend gave it to me.
Awesome, awesome. That's the best kind of sweater to get, right?
Yes,
So
let's get into
yeah, yeah,
the topic. So you saw that I reacted to. I didn't react to the whole thing because I'm gonna be blunt. I
yeah,
don't care much about the Ethan Hassan back and forth.
sure,
I care
sure.
much more about, I guess, more the issue that is kind of like the preceding thing, like the war. And I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
times the personalities get matched up in it, and you get the idea. But there
sure,
was a
sure.
certain section of the conversation that I did find fascinating, and it was
Mhm,
fascinating to me because I thought that it could put into question some of the work that I'm doing and in the way that I
mhm.
engage in interviews from the critiques that I heard from you of how Loner engaged in those interviews and how it could be construed as possibly propaganda by him not confronting the Israeli far right as aggressively in the interviews as you wanted. And so I was wondering if you wanted to expand on that position a little bit of exactly why it was propaganda and what type of standards you would hold for LonerBox to do interviews like this in the future.
Sure, sure. Well, I would, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of just elaborate on what I had to say. I think I kind of like put out at least like the seeds of my major points, but LonerBox was apoplectic, and I was also just like getting close to brain broken at that point, with my sleep stuff. So it was definitely like I don't think it was a very constructive critique. So I want to hit on exactly what you're asking right now. But first, I'd like to just, and this will be like easy to kind of make a transition into your question.
Sure, take your time.
But I just want to, I kind of like want to just lay out what it was that I felt like I was trying to say. That so basically because like LonerBox came in and his the big issue was me saying that I thought that it was perfectly understandable for some, like I do not think it would be a bad faith assumption for someone to make, to think that both LonerBox and Destiny were paid by Israel to go on that trip. Now, I need to make abundantly clear that this isn't some sort of like lame, beat around the bush kind of way of like being dishonest and like, heavily implying that this is the case, when I do not think that they were. I think that they were probably, at the very least, savvy enough to understand, yeah, that's just going to be a bad look if we're actually like paid in this scenario. And I do think that whether or not they actually like were even handed or whatever you want to talk about, I think that like, I think that they, especially LonerBox, because I have a little bit more like respect for what he does than Destiny. Yeah, I truly do not think that they
Are
were
you
paid
not
to
in
go there.
DGG?
Oh yeah, no,
Oh,
huge DGG orbiter. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I am not fond of Destiny. Hope that that's I'm sure you've talked with others that are kind of, or actually I don't even know, kind of like if you're still kind of close with Destiny in any sort of way. But
I the last time I talked to Destiny, I think was when I did the interview last year when I came back from the war about the war. I think that's the last time I talked to him.
yeah, was that on his their podcast with Dan Saltman?
Um, I think I did a podcast after, because there was two podcasts.
Yeah.
There was a first podcast which I forgot what it was called. Somebody will remind me in chat. But the second one was anything else, and I did go on that one afterwards, which was I don't think
Okay.
I was in the right state to be in that interview.
Oh yeah, I actually saw a clip of you from that. It was this
Bridges. It was
really
Bridges. Sorry, continue.
it was this really fucking funny what do you call it, montage of people who were on that show at moments where both Destiny and Dan Saltman were really trying to goad the people who they were talking with into talking about Hassan. And in some cases, they had been talking about Hassan like for probably for like hours with these people. One of them, the funniest one was J-Reg. And he was just like, at a certain point, he was just like, grr, I hate this guy Hassan. Like he was like just trying to say whatever he could to like to satisfy them basically, and it was clear that he didn't think that. But you were in there for just like one shot where you and it was pretty cool in my opinion. Like you said something like, like honestly, I don't know much about this situation, and I just don't want to waste my time talking about something that, like you said something to that effect. But anyway, I digress. So when I said that I thought that it was not a bad faith assumption for people to make, that was what LonerBox
Wait, was
took
it bad
issue with.
faith or was it unreasonable? I thought it was unreasonable.
And I don't think it's no. The reason why I don't think it's bad faith is because it's not the least bit unreasonable, and I'll tell you why I personally believe that.
Okay.
So and a couple of these things I mentioned. The first thing that I mentioned was there is a huge precedence for this sort of thing of people getting paid to go out to do these sorts of things. Now, LonerBox brought up, and I 100% agree with him that alone would not be sufficient to kind of like to base your assumption on at all. But it needs to be kind of factored in with everything else, that there are lots of situations like that. So anyway, the next one was, and I really didn't get to speak about this enough, but I think I mentioned the nature of the conversation that Destiny had with Elon Levy. Now, Elon Levy, do you know who that is?
He's a far right Israeli. I think he's an associate of Ben Gvir, if I remember correct. I don't know. I don't follow Israel as
No,
much.
no. You're probably mixing him up with Yishai Fleischer.
Okay.
Alan Levy was literally the spokesperson for the. I mean, I don't think no, he was not the spokesperson for the IDF. That's something different. But he was basically like the mouthpiece for Netanyahu and just like the
Spokesperson for the
I'm sure.
IDF, someone just said in chat.
Oh, is it IDF?
Yeah.
Okay. Then my bad. Yeah. And I mean, he was possibly the most visible spokesperson out there within the first like 5 to 6 months of the conflict. And he was later like fired. And I think by the time that I could be wrong, but I think by the time that they made their trip out there, he was no longer that. But he's still, of course, like all over kind of the network
He's
of
a big pro pro right Israel creator and
yeah,
commentator. Yeah.
and also, I mean, I have to say, I think that this man is just just a ghoulish fucking like he has spread so much disgusting misinformation and just I mean, you name it, all of the worst things that Israel had the Israeli officials have spread and whatnot. He has like spewed over and over everything from like the beheaded babies, like well after it was like pretty established that that was not true. I believe he even brought that up months later with in a debate that he did with Mehdi Hassan, and just in my opinion, one of the most
Bad dude.
disgusting people out there. So you get me, bad dude. So Destiny had an interview. I mean, they hung out with him for like a little while. I don't know all of what they did, but Destiny had an interview on his YouTube show. I don't know what it's called. And in my opinion, that entire conversation was just basically like a mutual dick sucking contest. And I mean, if someone
was Loner there for this conversation?
Loner was probably watching, but he was not being interviewed. Okay. And so, but this is the thing, like, you might say like, well, Loner should be judged on his own, but that's the thing. He was there with Destiny. They went there together. And anyway, the Nape, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinions who would watch that interview that they did, I mean, that's precisely the sort of propaganda that one would expect to create, or one would expect to be created if someone was paid to go out to a sort of a Hasbara vacation to Israel. Maybe are you familiar with the term Hasbara? It's just a term for basically like it's a word for propaganda, basically that is big in Israel. But anyway, and that's the thing. So you have they produce things like that. There's also the interviews that they did with Yishai Fleischer, which in spite of the fact that LonerBox thinks that he pushed back enough, he mentioned that Yishai Fleischer was not happy with what LonerBox had to say. I watched some of what he said, and I will, what he did say. I'm glad that like he characterized it as such. He said something to the effect of, "This is the most extreme person that I talk to," and there were a few times where he did dunk on him, but still, I mean, personally, I didn't think it was enough. He didn't even mention that this was a like spokesperson for Ben Gvir. He didn't mention a lot of things, and it doesn't, like, I don't fucking care if that guy was pissed off having seen what LonerBox had to say. Well after the fact, months after the fact, that guy posted at least 2 to 4 videos of their time with LonerBox and Destiny. He also interviewed them for his podcast, and this guy is not going to put anything on his social media that he thinks makes him look bad. And also, these people are obsessed with just kind of putting the best face out there. So what I'm saying is that he could easily piss off LonerBox, and it still wouldn't necessarily be indicative that LonerBox did too much. He's the kind of person that, just like with the, in my opinion, like you could do a relatively soft critique of him, and he could potentially get mad, because that's what he's there for. He is a spokesperson for the West Bank and people like Ben-Gvir, who, if your audience doesn't know, he is literally
Far
one
right,
of
worst of the worst Israeli loon.
Yes, I mean, I have a pretty. I think I can get it real quick.
Most of my
but,
audience should know who Ben-Gvir is. I want to make sure we can I just want to keep track of everything that's being
Yeah,
said.
yeah. I get it. I just have a here it is. Very recently, he said this in reference to Palestine. He said, annihilate, smash, eradicate, erase, crush, shatter, burn, be cruel, punish, ruin, crush, annihilate. And he was just talking about what should be done, further in Gaza. So yeah, worst of the worst. And yes, I do feel like inside those conversations, I mean, basically, they gave him material that he gladly posted on his socials and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, every time that LonerBox will talk with anyone who is pro-Palestine, who has a problem with LonerBox will like have so much smoke for that person. And then with these two people that you're talking about, they're just like smiling, taking selfies and whatnot. And these are some of the worst people in the Israeli conflict. So yeah, my overall point is, of course, somebody's going to look at stuff like that and think like, yeah, this was probably a paid trip. Like, that is just exactly the sort of thing that you'd expect to see. And he was there with Destiny. Destiny is just he's so fucking he's an Israeli apologist. This, he's one of considered one of the most formidable speakers on their behalf, and he makes a lot of bullshit arguments. I mean, some of his arguments are just kind of repurposed like John Spencer arguments. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's just like the worst of the worst. So you're going there with this guy who has that reputation, and you're partially creating stuff like this. Yeah, people are going to expect that. They're going to expect that. And if he doesn't like the fact that people assume that, then maybe he should think about what it is that he's doing. Because it's just like, those are pretty normal assumptions. Last thing I'll say is, if somebody is going to to his face, if somebody's challenged and is told oh, they were not paid for this, and they continue insisting that that's the case, then I absolutely have a problem with that. You need evidence for something like that. But anyway, there you go. That's kind of where I was coming from all of that. Yeah, thanks for letting me get that out there.
Sure. Let's there was a lot there, so let's try. I don't know if we should walk back or walk forward. I think we'll walk backwards. I think that'll be easier for me because I remember it more as to sound like.
Mm-hmm.
So for this idea that let's focus on if these people that they're doing conversations with are taking this content before we get into like the content that was said in these conversations and they're republishing them on their own networks. And for example, like you said, this guy Eli Levi, right, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he
Elon
republishes
Musk.
content to make himself look good, to help his cause, to help the Israeli war effort. And your concern is that they are helping him make propaganda on this tour, which is leading people to come to this assumption. Now,
Yeah, where that was Fleischer, but
yeah,
yes,
Fleischer,
the overall.
but I would assume that you'd think the same thing about the Eli Levi debate, or anybody that's going to be engaging with him that's a pro-Israel content creator is going to do this essentially, right? You would assume.
Um, yeah. There was just a difference between the nature of the conversations that they
Sure.
had,
So my
and
my my problem with this, even if I was to accept that they literally got steamrolled by the guy and that he completely dominated them on both his platform, on their platform, and that they didn't have much resistance. I know so many people in the United States that publish like Russian propaganda all the time, and I'll listen to what they're saying and I think, my God, this is like straight out of a Kremlin mouthpiece. And it would be very easy for me to say that guy's probably being paid by the Ruskies with him saying this about the Moscow mall attack and this is crazy Russian propaganda. But what I found is that there's a lot of people that will produce propaganda or will republish propaganda or talk propaganda and are not getting paid. They either just disagree with me, are stupid, are misinformed, or any other number of things. And so it's one thing to say, like, hey, I don't like how they engage in this conversation, or hey, I don't like that they toured Israel, or I don't like that these talk to these people. But when you say, before we get into any of the substance, when you say, like, it's not unreasonable to think that they're paid by Israel, this is stuff that is a career killer for somebody like LonerBox, right? If people believe that he's getting paid to have the beliefs that he has, nobody's going to support him. Nobody's going to donate to him. Nobody's going to follow him. They're going to see him as completely uncredible. So if somebody comes forward and makes a public accusation like this or airs something like that, I find it as irresponsible because you want to make sure that when you say this, that we know it's true. We know that Tim Pool was paid by the Russians. We know Benny Johnson was paid by the Russians. We know this stuff. And so when we make these accusations, I want them to be solid, because if somebody is being paid by the Israelis and we're crying wolf, what's going to happen is we're going to find out that so-and-so, Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, whoever, actually getting paid by the Israelis or something. We'll find out some scandal if something like that happens and we'll cry wolf.
Right. Oh, what did I write down? Man, there like I'm okay. Trying to think about how to. Okay, so first of all, there are a lot of people who are paid by Israel to do things that have thriving careers. So it's not necessarily a career killer. But that said,
I don't know, in a leftist space,
but-
when you're small and independent. I mean, we talk about people like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro's backed by institutions. Lonerbach doesn't have an institution behind him.
I mean, I don't think of LonerBox or certainly Destiny being, when it comes to the issue of Israel being anywhere close to meaningfully lefty. I mean, there's no way to kind of advocate to the extent that they do and be on the left.
You don't think Lonerbox is on the left?
I think that he has a lot of other like points of view that are on other situations that are left wing, but it's just like there is no left. There's no way to be left wing and meaningfully advocate for Israel. And
Wait,
sure,
okay,
like
question.
and I want to say, I want to say just real quick,
Mhm.
I want to say just real quick, it's important to mention that I understand that probably Lonerbox does not would really object to my presentation of him there. He would say like, you know, a whole lot of things and probably get like pretty pissed off. But yeah, that's exactly what I think. And that's yeah. So I mean, I just there is no like the entire society is so far to the right and advocating for them. I mean, it's just like he's completely what's the word? Just deny the genocide every step of the way. It's just like I think of being genuinely lefty as truly being concerned with human rights and just the like you know just the safety and welfare of human beings in general. And I don't think that he has advocated in a way that like really comes from a place of where if that's what you had you valued most. I don't think that like yeah that we'd hear what we hear from him. So anyway, what were you gonna say?
Do you think Stalin's left wing?
Do I think Stalin's left wing? Yeah, I mean, I'll uh, I always
I
get
just want to
mixed up.
know because like most people would consider him left wing, right? Because he's a communist,
Right.
staunch communist. You could say he's an authoritarian left wing that he can engage in
Yeah.
human rights abuses. But I think someone could be left wing and think like human rights are even like kind of like a made up concept that they consider themselves mostly with the ownership of the means of production. Like and so I would say Stalin's left wing. He's just authoritarian left wing. No.
Yes, yes, but I guess the reason
But
why I'm kind of
let me
like
just throw
making
my
the
follow up.
implication
The follow up is
here.
really
Yeah,
important
go
though.
for it.
Stalin
Yeah.
recognized Israel. He backed Israel, and he was the first leader in the entire world to recognize Israel as a state. And the reason he wanted to is because he wanted a socialist Israel. He wanted a socialist ally in the Middle East. And at that time, like much of the Israeli movement had socialist leanings when it comes to like the kibbutzes or
Okay.
whatever. And so if Stalin can like back Israel in 48, its recognition as a state, even though, Palestinians had been moved off of territories and stuff, brutal stuff had happened at that point, and he can be considered left wing. If Stalin can beat that, I don't know how, even though I don't accept the fact that LonerBox is just pro Israel and that's how we would define him. If Stalin can have that position and still be left wing, I don't know how LonerBox can't meet the standard of being not critical enough
Okay.
of Israel for you, but not being left wing.
I'll tell you why I bother to make this distinction. It's because there are so many people within his community, within Destiny's community, people who I believe are either centrists on the at like best centrists on the Israel Palestine conflict, people who are pro-Israel on the conflict who look at them and think like that both of them are these like centrists. Like a lot of them just look at them as like, oh, they're enlightened centrists, and everybody else who talks about this this whole debacle, they're just crazy. They're like super far left, and they end up thinking that it always blows my mind when people think that Destiny of all people is like anything close to pro-Palestinian. That's insane. But yeah, I think that people get a incorrect impression of of their advocacy. I mean, you won't find
Well,
anyone
I
who is
I just don't.
what.
You can agree. You could say I think they're being bad on this. They're not standing up for human rights, and you can say all these things. You can be your position. I just don't think it has anything to do with whether they're left wing or right wing. I meet so many left wingers. I mean, not more than I would like to really say that backed the Russian invasion. People who would describe themselves as left wing, hard communists, and they think that this is the way to build a multipolar world order that will X, Y, and Z. I remember the man who drove me to get a passport to go to Ukraine for the first time. He was dating one of my cousins. He had hammer and sickle tattoos all over his body. And while he was driving me to get a passport to go to Ukraine, he was saying, well, kind of, it's okay. So I would look at all those people. I would still describe them as left wing, still describe them as communist. It's just, I think
Mhm.
that I just think those views could be repulsive and they could still be left wing. No,
Sure. Well, I understand what you're saying. I
it just
mean,
feels like
at
two
the end of
separate conversations.
at the end of the day, I even though that I think that sometimes it's worth kind of diving into these things. At the end of the day, I always feel like the titles that people give themselves or what have you are less important than the actual actions. So and yeah, I guess and then also maybe I'll make this like firm stance that I don't think that they could be considered leftists, because I think of being a capital L leftist, I think really is all about, as I said, a huge consideration is human rights, and also like I think just like caring about like the effects of empiricism and whatnot.
Do you think Loner doesn't
So
care about human rights?
I don't think he cares enough about human rights, because he has like just more or less been a mouthpiece for Israeli talking points. And he just, I mean, I'm sure I don't think, don't get me wrong, I don't think that he is like someone who's like has like a bloodlust, but yeah, he from like day one has just fought against the idea that there is a genocide going on, and we have like practically every single human rights group under the sun, so many genocide scholars. I mean, at this point, it's just pretty crazy to me that he still continues to with the mountain of evidence out there, and the really just all the scholars, academics that agree that that's precisely what we're seeing.
Is it unanimous
The
amongst genocide
legal,
scholars that as of the entirety of this war, they were calling it a genocide? Or has that developed differently in the last few months as Israel has been more open about certain intentions and certain government officials said X, Y, and Z?
I mean, the case was perfectly laid out by both Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. I want to say at least close to a year ago, and or at least one of them had published it by that point. And you probably know, you're a smart guy who is up on this stuff, and you probably know that when a like organization like them put something like that out, it's not just an opinion. It's based on all this legal data that they
Hmm.
put together, and and then we also have the United Nations. We have so many places, and
The
it's
United
just
Nations
this.
said that there's a genocide going on, that it is a genocide.
You know what? Sorry. You probably, probably am wrong about that. Brain
I'm
fart.
asking you because I don't read all the UN reports, you know.
Um, Here, I'll look it up real. Actually, I won't look it up real quickly. Maybe you can if you want, because the thing is that if I go onto the internet, it's gonna like fuck with our broadcast, like
Sure.
and having like internet problems.
Okay.
But I was talking with someone the other day who mentioned that, and so yeah, I think that's why I blurted that out, and I shouldn't do that. I should really I like to just research, make sure that my so let's say that they aren't included. But the point is that I don't think that there would ever be such a wide body of relevant experts and organizations and whatnot who would make a statement like this on other countries, other places, and Destiny and LonerBox would refute them to the extent they have. And so whether or not he believes that he's meaningfully pro human rights, and just kind of wants to avoid uh like groups getting genocided and whatever he'd say, he's been working against it, and that's I'm sure that will piss him off to no end, and he'll probably spend like a half hour just fucking saying whatever like denialist bullshit he wants to, like in response to this conversation right here. But it's just like I've seen so many people with far better grasp of the situation, kind of like take him down. Like, did you happen to watch the Chris Kunzler video on LonerBox? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No idea.
Uh, I'll send it to you. Okay,
Sure,
I
you can send it
recommend you
to me
watch.
after. We don't need to go through the bullet points of his video, but if there's some
Yeah,
points you want to bring
yeah,
up
yeah.
specifically from it, I mean, but I do. My thing is here. I remember going to visit LonerBox in Scotland and going out and looking, at the different Scottish like castles and stuff, and it was a very nice
Mhm.
time. And I remember having a conversation with one of his associates who probably knew much more about genocide than I did, and I was talking about the Russian campaign. I'm sorry, I'm comparing everything. I'm just comparing to what I know, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, of course.
I remember talking about how the Russians were burning the Ukrainian books, how they were, changing all the names from Ukrainian to Russian, and how they were indoctrinating the children that they had trafficked and kidnapped the orphans and the mobilization of all of the people illegally in occupy. And I was talking about all these things and saying they're moving in people from Russia to take the homes of those they've expelled. And my God, I mean, doesn't this feel like a genocide? And they looked me straight in the face. It's like, no, that's not a genocide. And I was like, what do you mean it's not a genocide? It's like, genocide is a word that holds meaning, that when you say it, it has a legal definition. That maybe you could say something like, there's a policy of cultural erasure and X, Y, and Z. But these things can be horribly evil. You can condemn them while also not meeting to these terms. For example, I am very confident in saying that there are people in the Israeli government who want to and are probably planning or definitely pushing the government to engage in a policy of ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip, expelling the people to replace and take over the territory. But there is also a different standard between ethnic cleansing and genocide. If I said the Israelis are going to engage in ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip, it's horrible, it's awful, they shouldn't do that, but I don't think it meets the legal definition of genocide. Would that make me an Israeli propagandist?
Well, I think what would make you an Israeli propagandist is if you actually looked at just the legal case. Again, Human Rights Watch and I think B'Tselem. I think B'Tselem also published legal documents, but we have legal documents from at least two of the world's most well-respected human rights organizations that have ever existed, and they put out a very compelling legal case as to why this is precisely what's going on. And I do agree, like, I guess technically there's a difference between ethnic, I mean, there is a difference between ethnic cleansing and sorry, brain fart.
Genocide.
Uh, yeah, genocide. Well, it's actually, I have to turn my air conditioner off in order to have these conversations, so it's like slowly getting hotter and hotter and hotter in here. um but yeah, but those things can happen concurrently. And I mean, I'm sure you heard that they were basically cutting off aid recently, to the point where if there was no
They're
intervention,
starving them.
14 babies were in danger of dying. And just I mean, what we've never seen this sort of industrial scale slaughter of such a small area for an incredibly long time, with so many civilian deaths. The civilian deaths are we know that they have used a bunch of do you know anything about the Where's Daddy program? It's like an AI program that basically would follow soldiers home, and when they're in there, there with their families, they would knowingly bomb them at that point and kill the entire family. I mean, I'm just, again, when I came here to
Mm-hmm.
talk, like I didn't, kind of, because I'm always the kind of person, I think that conversation that I had with Hutch proves it pretty well. I I definitely am not someone who, like, I'm not as good at coming up with any sort of facts that I either don't have at my fingertips or that I haven't like reviewed a few hours before talking with someone. So I could make a much
Wait,
more robust. case.
So
Anyway,
two points I just want to quickly say, and I'm not doing this to like do gotchas. I'm just doing it because
yeah, I don't think you are. I think you're,
I'm a stickler, and
yeah.
I'm a stickler. I don't know if it is the largest slaughter for the smallest area, because I would think of like Curtis LeMay. He really fucked up the Japanese, and those fire bombs and those wooden towns killed a lot of people, and so it is brutal. I just don't know if it is the most death specifically in a small area, because those wooden towns would like burn one after the point. It is pretty heavy. I'm just saying I don't know if it's literally the
I mean,
highest ever. And the other point, and I'm
and
sorry, it feels stickler, but I
yeah,
just there when you go back in history, man, human beings have been bastards for a very long time. As for the other point, I think
I guess
the well, no,
no, no, no. Real quickly, no, no. It's very important that I throw this out there. I meant in the modern era, like we've never had a like a situation like this where it's just being broadcast like day after day. We're seeing the dire effects of it, but
yeah.
you know, like and anyway, go ahead.
And the second point, I think the 14,000 number was rolled back. I think even the official that made the statement said that technically wasn't true, and I'm really worried about the statement because the 14,000.
No,
You can
it,
go check it out, but the official himself said it wasn't true. But
mm,
the thing that scares me
yeah,
about
but
that is when you say a statement like that, and then the official comes out and says afterwards, "I think I jumped the gun." It's not. It's going to be people are going to starve to this. It's just going to be over a longer period of time. I worry that this is just going to be chewed up by the Israeli information machine. So to see they're uncredible. They have nobody's
well,
going to starve. It's all fake. You know.
well, a few things when it comes to famine and any sort of situation like that, you have to operate from a from the standpoint of prevention, like the whole
I
point.
agree, but we still have to be careful with our numbers for prevention, or we'll end up counteracting what we're trying to do.
I mean, I don't think that I don't agree with you because I think that Israel is going to do what it's going to do. They're not they're going to deny aid if they're going to deny aid, or if they're not like it. I don't really think
Well, no,
that like
it's not about
being like
whether
super
Israel is going
careful.
to specifically care. It's about Israel could make a better case to the world, a better case to the international community about these numbers not being reliable. Don't trust them. And when people are debating the numbers, they get to continue the attacks. And so, if
Yeah,
what you're saying is true, though,
but
then why not like it's 20,000, it's 30, 100,000? Like at that point, a higher number means more urgency.
Um, look, I actually when you said that the number 14,000, maybe you were right about that. That it wasn't correct because I actually kind of in my mind thought for a second I thought you were talking about the total number of uh child deaths or
You
something
know, I
like
said
that. I just kind of
14,000 would starve within 48 hours.
yes, yes, yeah. I should have kind of like connected the two, but I just kind of like was a little off there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's incredibly hard for people for them to like gain accurate statistics there because they won't let journalists in. The journalists that are there, they are like just murdering one by one, and there's all sorts of efforts that would all sorts of things that just that can't totally be counted correctly. I don't I don't care if it was just like 500 babies and they said 14,000 babies. I mean, like if
Yeah, I'm just being
like
careful. It's
the
just my platform, and I want to be careful with the numbers. I agree that any baby starving is terrible. That is something. If there is a
yeah,
baby that's about to starve, move in all of the hamburgers, all of the food. I want the baby fat. I agree. I agree with
right.
that fundamentally. And even if I'm gonna steal some of it, still move the aid in, because at the end of the day, we need to stop the babies from dying. I agree with that
Yeah.
fundamentally. I do. We have other stuff, and it's 6:30 a.m. for me, so I've been streaming all night. So
Okay.
I want to make sure we can get through some of these points before
Okay.
I pass out. Are you familiar with Fidas? You know, the Cypriot MEP YouTuber who got elected to the European Parliament.
Uh no, I have no clue who that is.
Well, make a long story short, he's a YouTuber, got elected to parliament with like 19% of the vote. And since getting elected, he's like let YouTube, like the audience vote on different, like YouTube poll, choose what I should vote on XYZ. But one position he's taken is that we need to just engage with more diplomacy with Russia. He went and visited Moscow during the Victory Day parade, and he said a bunch of stuff about the kidnapping of Ukrainian children, including voting against the resolution to condemn the illegal deportation of these children. And a pro-Ukraine journalist sat down with him to interview this guy, right? Now, this guy, to me, if you're going to vote against a resolution to condemn the kidnapping of Ukrainian children, he was one of only 3 people in the entire European Parliament to do it. That's pretty bad. That's pretty reprehensible. And so he sits down with this pro-Ukraine journalist, and this dude, in my opinion, he even went almost like too hard, to the point where like you got to let a dude talk if he's going to hang himself, quote unquote, right? But he went hard, aggressive, like, why are you okay with the kidnapping of children? Why you keep supporting it? Super aggressive. And after that interview was done, Fetus took clips from it, the best clips he could manage from it, and edited it out to make it look like he was answering stuff reasonably, that there was no good response from it. And so my takeaway from that is somebody will make any interview, no matter how bad it is for them, they're going to spin it. They're going to spin it no matter what on their platform. And so I agree that the substance of the interview matters, but no matter what, they're going to try to say, look, we went and we faced the ideas, we were better. So, I mean, like, I do think that you can interview these people, and they're going to do this no matter what. It's just a question of when you publish your content, whether I think it's substantive enough.
Look, well, all of the clips that I told you about that this guy Yishai Fleischer posted, they're all just like it's all unedited footage. I mean, maybe one of them where they
Well, if it's a clip, it is edited, right? It's an edit of one specific like 1 or 2 minute section that makes him look good.
There's one clip where they are I believe in Hebron or Hebron. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And they are basically like overlooking the city, and it goes on
Is this the one they released yesterday, or like the full version of, I think, on their channel? The one where they're like, it's him, Loner, Destiny Loner, and this dude. They're overlooking, the West Bank, and he's talking about settlement policy and why he believes they have a right to Judea and Samaria, quote unquote. Is this the one?
I haven't seen the rest of it, so maybe it is. But there is about like 20 minutes, at least like 15 to 20 minutes where he is speaking to them and talking about what is going on in Hebron, and kind of like basically just saying like, there are all these misconceptions of here, and the way it really is this way. And, I'm not an incredible authority on what goes on in Hebron, but I know that what was happening at that time was far worse than he was putting it. And just like, again, like I watched that and they were just kind of sitting back. I don't recall. It's possible maybe there were 1 or 2 times where they kind of spoke up and said and like challenged him, but stuff like that. You know what? If some sort of video was put out, I'll take a look at it. I'll look at I would want to see how much back and forth there is on that. But the thing is like, again, like that guy, he posted the I'm telling you why I imagine that I'm not going to be that impressed by it, is because that same guy posted an hour-long podcast with talking to both of them. He posted like all this other stuff, and he wasn't angry at at LonerBox until he saw until he saw LonerBox his like discussion of Fleischer months after the fact. So like, in my opinion, like, no, I think that with somebody like that like, I would feel like I had done journalistic malpractice if I walked away from a guy like that, and by the end of it, he wanted to take like smiling selfies it's exactly like if I have a debate with fucking Nick Fuentes and he like, wants to eat peanut butter sandwiches and do like fist bumps, like, like Destiny, I'm going to like just think like, yeah, I did a really bad job there. And that sort of person would be pissed off at him if either of them did the sort of pushback that a bloodthirsty motherfucker like that guy who wants to create pro-Israeli propaganda to make the West Bank settlers look more approachable and just to kind of like put like a smiling face on just the brutal human rights abuses they're engaging in every day. So that's what I would expect, or that I think we should all expect from someone interviewing someone like that. And the last thing that I'll say is that, do I think that LonerBox went into it thinking like, I'm just going to give this guy a slam dunk and I want to make this guy look great? No, I don't necessarily think that that's the case. Probably not. But I think he did. And if he like, if you disagree with it, fine. If he disagrees with it, fine. But like, yeah, I think that that's his. I think that that's like our duty and stuff like that, especially when you're someone who has so much smoke, so many problems with people who are on the like the pro-Palestine side. And immediately, whenever you have a conversation with someone, it blows up into like just this like shouting match. Like, come on, like just like why is it that your coverage of one side is so fucking like gregarious and you can like end things with selfies and whatnot, and the other one it's like that there's something going on there. So that's how I look at it.
I remember I was roughly 5 miles from the Russian border, and I was interviewing some right sector fighters. You familiar with right sector?
No, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna have to turn on my air conditioner because it's just getting
It's
too hot
fine.
in here.
If I hear a little backtrack, it's fine. I don't care.
It's gonna be a little annoying, but
I want you in your best
otherwise,
state, Vadim.
yeah, I'm gonna just melt like a slug being a slug being poured with salt right before your very eyes. If this is not on, okay, there we go, baby. Thank you. All right, appreciate your patience, man.
Yeah, no worries. It's all good, man. I don't want you heating up in there in a hot box. So I remember I interview these guys. The right sector, when people talk about the Ukrainian far right, these are the guys they mean. These
Sure.
are the people they mean. These were the guys that that were fighting very viciously back in 2014. They went from a street movement to like a militia. They were part of the groups that helped overthrow the Yanukovych regime, and then eventually militarized, went to the front. Very right wing, very nationalistic when it comes to their values and their political party. They never got more than like any political actual influence. They've always been most effective in fighting. But point is, these guys are filled with people that I regularly would not drink with. Right? Not all of them, especially since the war started and a lot of normal conscripts were put in there and such. But a lot of people would not get a drink with. But I got the opportunity to interview them and I accepted it. So I made a list of questions that had to do with both how they fought in vicious battles, but also with some anti-queer violence that had been engaged in the period of 2015, 2016, stuff like that. And when I asked him those questions, I could see it made him uncomfortable. He started shifting around in his chair a bit. And when you're talking to these right sector fighters, these are, can be somewhat intimidating men. And that section was probably the most confrontational I was. But for the rest of it, I was trying to get a better understanding of their ideology, because most people just hear Ukrainian far right and they have no clue what they're about. You want to know that dude's favorite American author? Jordan Peterson. Not an American author, Canadian author, but basically an American. It's with the way he does his politics. That to me was very informative. And I didn't agree with his politics, but I think by revealing the veil of what right sector was about, that I had still done some form of service, as well, of course, the historical record. Now, that was an individual interview. If I was doing a full documentary on right sector, I would have interviews with right sector fighters that wouldn't be confrontational at all. It would be just, I need to get information for this documentary. I need to get
I
information
get
for
it.
X, Y, and Z. And when I'm looking at this video that Destiny put out on his channel yesterday, I see conversations with that one dude you talked about. Then I see a conversation with an old man about the history of the war. Then I see a conversation with a different Israeli settler woman. Then I see another conversation with, I believe, like a pro-Palestinian guy. About 45 minutes in, they have a 20-minute conversation. Then they go back to the settler and have a debate for the last part of it. And I look at that and making a documentary. I don't want to call it a documentary. I don't know what you would call it, but you making a project like that, the interview style you're going to engage in is going to be very different. And so if you're doing a piece like that, it's going to be a lot easier to take 15 minutes out of it where they're just deriving information from you and making it look like, hey, look at this guy. He's a pro-Israel propaganda, or hey, look, these Americans are weak when it comes to confronting our propaganda. But when I look at the full picture and the full piece all put together, it's, you don't need to agree with every part of it, but it's not just, hey, this is hardcore Zionist XYZ propaganda. And so I just want to say, like, would it be impossible for me to make that right sector documentary?
Okay, well, first of all, it's just sort of like a case by case basis. I do think that there's something said for what you're talking about. There are situations where certain types of journalism is done. There are also, sometimes there's different goals for different things. But like, the same, I was applying the same type of just like you probably saw back in the day. I wouldn't expect you to remember them extremely well, but like some of my videos on Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, and whatnot, and also maybe some kind of criticisms I made of people like Dave Rubin and whatnot. And basically, in all of those things,
Do you mean Dave Rubin, the thought leader?
I mean, the guy with all those high level ideas.
Yes, that guy.
But like basically, a good portion of maybe not a decent portion of my of those videos talked about similar times where I thought that all these guys were, when interviewing certain people, just kind of like basically like creating like a what they call what's the word, when you give somebody like a really easy interview, softball, right? And I'm just applying the same sort of standards to them that I have in the past. I will look at what they did with that Yishel Fleischer guy, but at the end of the day, we could take him out of the equation, and we could just look at the interview that Destiny did with that Elon Levy guy, where there was, if you watch that, were there moments where there was disagreement? Sure. But to me, the disagreement wasn't like nearly as substantial as probably Destiny or LonerBox would make it out to be. And there were so many, and I'm sorry, I'm not equipped to, like, I'd have to watch it again to like give you the really good examples. But there were so many areas of agreement, and they were sitting around, they were just laughing, they were having a good time. And that's the thing, like what they're doing is they are absolutely, Destiny is making, like, it's defanging these disgusting people, making it look like, we can go out for beers at the end of the day with these guys who are totally defending and committing and perpetrating a genocide right now. It's really, it is just, it's gross. And again, that's exactly the sort of propaganda that I think that I would expect, and most people would expect, who, are further, like, I don't know if you want to say further to the left, but who are like more pro-Palestine than the two of them. That's exactly the sort of thing that people would look at and think like, oh yeah, that's the sort of propaganda that Israel would want to make. And clearly it is, because Elon Levy wouldn't have had Destiny on the show to begin with if that wasn't the case. Or if he did, you know, like he would not be so, like, what's the word, just pleased with like you could tell that he was just having like a great time. And it's like sort of like you know, if he's talking with someone like Mehdi Hassan or someone who's actually challenging him, by the end of the discussion they hate each other's guts. So you know, and I think that, like, the reason why he isn't challenging these people to the extent that I would like to see is because he does have so much agreement with them, because he is sympathetic to this fucking disgusting genocidal government. So, you know, like, I can't expect him to do something you know, that's not in his heart. So yeah.
I think that I agree that I probably wouldn't have taken selfies with maybe some of the people, but I also don't know how much I can even judge, because I took people took pictures with me with the right sector fighters, and again, it's a little different than the settlers because the context of the war is different. There's the difference, of course, but I think, like, in this instance, when we're talking about Loner, the interview, or the debate, the Elon Levi debate that Destiny had, I haven't seen it. If I was to just take your word on it and say that he was not as aggressive as he should have been, he didn't critique him on a bunch of stuff, the dude got to say stuff. If I was to just take that at face value, LonerBox being in the room, I can't just put blame on what is he supposed to jump into the debate? Is he supposed to grab the mic? Is he supposed to? And the only reason I bring this up is because this was as far as I know, a 2-week long trip across the West Bank, across Israel, across all these places.
He did.
And so if like
he did.
Mhm.
He did, just to, like, strongman him here, or not strongman, steelman him here. He did interview people like, I think his name is Miriam Barghouti. I might be messing up his name there. He did interview some people, like, who were genuinely on the pro-Palestine side of things. So you know, I don't want to act or put forward the like, you know, the false notion that he only did that, like spoke with people
Well,
like
it's just
Elon
in
Levy.
this example, it's not even like Loner talking, it's Destiny talking. Which if I would have to go watch that and go look, because I haven't watched Destiny's coverage of Israel in forever, because I've got enough war right now, right? And I don't need to hear every commentator's. I just learn what's going on in Israel and I walk away. I don't need to hear everybody's opinion on it. But like, Loner was over this 2-week trip, and like, I can understand you not having that a good impression of that one conversation Destiny had, but a 2-week long trip, and the worst critique we can get of Loner is that he was in the room during the debate that Destiny had. Even if you don't think that's right, that nowhere meets the level of, well, this guy's a propagandist for Israel, especially since, like, as far as I know, LonerBox believes settlers are military targets, valid military targets. What Israeli propagandist would ever say that Palestinians can fire upon settlers and that's legal by the laws of war? That's a perfectly valid military target. I don't know of any Israeli government spokesperson or even people in the left-wing, more sympathetic Palestinian side that would often say that due to fear of maybe some retribution or something.
But I don't know. I mean, there are certain arguments that people like, you know, before he was just an out and out Republican, that people like Dave Rubin would trot out, like, you know, but I'm for legalizing weed. I'm pro life, or no, yeah, I'm pro choice and things like that.
I
And
don't know if like
so,
saying settlers are a valid military target. It's a little bit far off from I want low taxes, but I like weed though. It's I don't know. It's
I mean, it's just somewhere, to me, it's somewhere in the same ballpark, because of the fact that, like, again, I will, like, totally, like, take an L on my, like, because again, when I really come to talk about things, I need to kind of like go over my notes. I would be able to kind of like just in general make a more compelling case as to why I view LonerBox the way that I do. I'm going to send you that that video by Chris Kunzler. Chris Kunzler has a PhD in Middle East studies, and he, I think he gives an extraordinarily large amount of evidence for his claims. He like puts tons of resources, everything he referenced within the video. So
I don't want to put you
I
on
would
the spot. Is there any specific critiques from that video of Loner that you can remember?
I am like, I'm just like a blank right now because of the fact that like, this is here. Let me bring the video up.
Maybe it has
And
timestamps and it'll refresh your memory or something.
yeah. Bad look for me to draw a blank on that, but that's just kind of how I am with certain things. Like my short-term memory is unfortunately like just garbage. Kunzler, LonerBox.
Israel content.
Okay, here we go. So, he's a like a new YouTuber, and so he doesn't put his videos into sections. But here, let me go through this. I don't recall. I know, bad look for me, but it definitely is, it's a good vid. You should check it out.
I'll check it out when I have some time. I'll be traveling soon, so I'll download some videos.
And if you would want me to, come back and kind of substantiate this argument more, again, I like.
If you want to.
I mean, or if you wanted me to, it's fine. But you know what? It's okay that you don't think that like I don't like basically. I grant you that I should be able to kind of like come with like more examples in order to persuade you. So I'm not going to fault you for just like not take like it. I wouldn't expect you just to kind of like take my word on anything. But the last thing that I'll say is just that like I mean you mentioned let's say that the trip that LonerBox took, all of the ways that you have kind of put it into a different perspective and said like basically put it in a much more positive light. Let's say that all of what you're saying is exactly the case.
Mm-hmm.
We still have to factor in what I mean. Maybe I made this point. Sorry, I'm like getting a little tired, and maybe
okay.
I'm like but like it's the like the trip itself mixed with the rest of his presence on YouTube, Twitch, just the internet in general, having to do with the Israeli-Palestine conflict. I mean, ask yourself this, okay? Like, why is it that Destiny and LonerBox just they're can you name me people who are taken seriously in the pro-Palestine movement? I'm talking about like scholars, I'm talking about journalists, I'm talking about activists and whatnot. There's like show me people who like really like consider them an ally. they're always, I mean, especially Destiny is, of course, always the person who is vociferously debating these people. And so, like, you know, these people are representative of the overall movement of outside of Gaza itself. And so, like, I just think that that really says something. There is like when both Tim Pool and Dave Rubin were saying that they were like totally left wing, aside from 1,000 other reasons that you could refute it, you looked around and all of their you know, compadres were right wing, and like the majority of the allies that someone like Destiny has when it comes to the Israel conflict, or I don't want to call it a conflict, but just what's going on there. You know, these are very pro-Israeli people, or Israeli government people, and I don't know. I just like I don't think you ever see a situation like that where someone is meaningfully on either a centrist or on the side that they, you know, a side that, and everyone, the majority of that side is just very opposed to so much of what they say. Do you get me? Because I'm sort of like at this point,
I get what you're saying. You're saying that the people of respectable credentials in the pro-Palestine movement, where are they saying on them? Like, why aren't they endorsing them? Why? Well, they don't seem to be behind them.
Exactly. And I think
my follow-up question would be, because like again, I'm more focusing on Loner, man. I know more about what's been going on Loner's stuff than I do about Destiny, so I'll just talk to Loner. Are there any pro-war or pro-continuation of all of this people that of like regard on the Israel side that think that Loner is like a valuable or a like knowledgeable or like he's a respectable person on that, like he's the person to go to? Because I mean, if I can't think of anybody.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the question?
If the problem is that there's, and I don't know all the Palestinians that have talked about Loner, so I can't say. But if the problem is that Loner doesn't have Palestinians like vouching for him as a voice for Palestine or a voice like good on this on the war, then the inverse of that would be, are there Israelis or like pro-war Israelis specifically, because if you're an anti-war Israeli, it wouldn't really count, that believes that LonerBox is a reliable source, a good source, and he's the guy to go to?
I believe so. Yes, I believe there are. When I see just
Any
a
names,
lot of,
like any specific?
no. But I take a very close look at the like people on Twitter and in the Destiny community who like, you know, a lot of there are so many accounts that don't use their names or whatnot, and they like spew just really dehumanizing filth, and that, you know, in like towards like uh like it's not Israelis, I'm sorry, like Palestinians and Muslims in general. And these people really are like in the tank for them. And fucking Dan Saltman is really like is like really extreme himself. There's all of these like really incredibly like in my opinion, just
I'm sure there's
basic.
tons of terrible terror. I've seen how accounts act. Oh my god, the accounts of this war on Twitter is just hate to an astronomical level. But like when we're talking about like the Palestinians
But
that need
these
to,
people, but these people,
Mhm.
let me say that a lot of these people are. Have you heard of like the Taliban or the Dazbullah
Al
Brigade?
Qaeda.
That's no. The Dazbullah with D.
Yeah, no,
There's this group.
yeah, Al Qaeda.
What? Oh, okay. I haven't heard that one. So yeah. when I am talking about these people, a great deal of these people are in, they're like in the Disbala brigade. They are people like they're mods, which Dan Saltman made them mods for the whatever the fuck the actual name of it is, and these are just like really racist people, and like the community is just filled with them. And I've talked with a lot of people online who are super like way more just really like we're gonna have to wrap this up soon because I'm kind of like
Sure.
my ability to talk is kind of like just waning. But my point is that I talk to a lot of people who are, and when I say talk, I mean just have like little Twitter interactions, people who clearly are way to the right or just like even more lost in the sauce for Israel, and they look at LonerBox. They'll say things like, "Oh, LonerBox is the only pro-Palestinian account that isn't completely insane, that isn't completely captured by the woke left," or they have different ways of putting it. So they definitely see Destiny.
I don't know if I've ever
as,
seen a DGG or say woke left, but I mean, that'll usually just be a combination of Arsler, Arsler, Arsler.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people out there who really, because you probably like understand like people who loved Shoe on Head. There were tons of people who were like alt writers that loved Shoe on Head when she was even more. I mean, I never really felt she was substantially left wing, but even when she
Sure.
was more like forward facing,
I get your point. I get your point.
Yeah.
I just so when you asked me about the Palestinians that were, where's the Palestinian like reputable like activists and such that are like pointing to these people as sources, like why would the comparison be anonymous Twitter accounts and not like reputable pro-war Israelis or something? Why would because then you would just find like Twitter
I
accounts
mean,
of the
again,
inverse.
like I think Yishai Fleischer looks at the two of them as an ally. I mean, maybe he's changed his mind about like LonerBox at this point, but not only did they have all of those interactions, but I could be wrong. If
So he doesn't see LonerBox as an ally.
I think that overall, someone like him sees them as an ally in the sense that they kind of help bring people over to his point of view, and I'm not saying that let me sort of explain there.
It's just but
because I don't believe
but their position is pro-settler. He believes settlers can be shot. I don't know how you like wrap those things like around each other as an ally.
I mean, let me ask you this. Do you find it like, did you have I'm not saying that this is the only issue here, but did you have as much of a problem as I did with people like Destiny hanging out, having burgers with Nick Fuentes, actually like fucking I'm sorry that if this is gonna getting in. I mean, no, I'm not sorry.
Sex? They had sex?
No. I'm talking about fucking Lauren Southern. I wouldn't usually be that like graphic, but I think that she's just like that. I mean, she's a fucking neo-Nazi. And it's just I guess he didn't do
Is that
that
confirmed
on,
that he
on the internet.
had intercourse with Lauren Southern?
Yeah, I think it shows something about him. I think it shows.
No, I didn't say
shows
if I said, is that confirmed? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it is confirmed. It is confirmed. They they had an affair, and I wouldn't kind of blurt that out if it hadn't been confirmed. But it's just like I believe that kind of like what Destiny did with let's just keep it to fucking Nick Fuentes. you know, like basically by like hanging with him, laughing with him, fist bumping with him, all that, having burgers on a sidewalk, and kind of like laughing when he made anti-Semitic memes to passersby who didn't understand what the fuck he was talking about. I think that you are seriously defanging someone like Nick Fuentes. You're giving the like impression like, oh, you know, this fucked up shit that they do, like it's not that big a deal. You can kind of like still like chill with these people, and I mean, I think that that is maybe if like, you know, he was to like speak about Nick, maybe he would like, you know, in one instance or another say like, I only did it for this reason or whatever. But I don't know, that coincided with the internet embracing him so much more, and that's what this guy wants. This guy wants to like put forward a face to the world that they're not that unreasonable. You can hang out with them and just like, you know, just shoot the shit and like take like selfies and whatnot. It's just,
You think
to
Destiny's
me,
intention was to make Nick Fuentes' beliefs seem not unreasonable?
I don't know if that was his intention or not, but I think that, I mean, I'm saying that the effect of the overall effect of the hangouts that he would have with him kind of just makes him look like his problems, or just the really horrible things about him, look ultimately innocuous. He ends up being someone that like can, you know, in spite of all his weird hangups, you can party with him, and I think that's really socially destructive. So so I
From
think
what I
it's a little
remember,
similar.
and I think we're a bit off from Loner, but if I remember correctly, Destiny's belief is that he likes talking to quote unquote interesting people, and he doesn't like restrictions on quote unquote talking to interesting people because he finds it interesting. Obviously he likes to talk and debate and stuff like that. And I think that probably he believed that he could debate Nick Fuentes, and by talking to him in that manner, eating dinner with him in these environments, he could maybe, I don't know if he thought he could change his mind or he thought he would just like make those beliefs look bad. But I certainly think that he was friendly during the endeavor. They did have a falling out though, and I think that they really hate each other now. I don't really know for sure though.
And Destiny still does it with other people. He did it with what's his face, like he's a really, like, I'm sorry, I almost never use this term, but this guy is like a piece of shit, and he's like a Nazi, but just a truly ugly dude. He had this
What's his
comedy
name?
show called He had this comedy show called $1 Million Extreme. He
Is this
like
Sam Hyde?
Sam Hyde. He hung out with Sam Hyde. From my understanding, he later acknowledged that he was a neo-Nazi, and maybe they don't hang out now. But there's a lot of characters that he like hangs out with, and sure, I'm positive Destiny has reasons that he'll put out there for it. But I just I don't think that it really Destiny has said that like Nick Fuentes, that he like resurrected his career. And yeah, so I think he did something really wrong.
Destiny said that he brought back Nick Fuentes.
Yes. There's a clip out there where he says that, and I think it's undeniable that he did that with Lauren Southern too, and she really didn't meaningfully change. Like, you know, she still believes all
Did
of
he
the
bring back
great
her career?
Yeah,
What career does she have?
You mean, what career did she have?
I mean, what career does she have now? Like, what career does she have?
Oh well, she has once again kind of like just it was after that. Maybe you heard about the
Yeah, I
there
heard
were
about it. I heard about it. You don't
yeah,
even.
yeah,
I
yeah.
heard about it.
So she's out. Like, I'm assuming it has to do with that she just kind of like got out of the public eye once again. But he got her back on the map, and she was doing the rounds on like Timcast and
She went on my
all
show.
the. She was on your show as well. Oh,
Yeah, she
okay.
went on Hippy Dippy. She was very whiny, honestly, because she booked to be on it, and then last
Yeah.
second, like a week out, she says, "I didn't do enough research. I don't want to come on." And it rubbed me the wrong way because it's like, why would you agree to something you're not going to do the research? And then I go on and I do the show, and I'm doing it like normal. And Counterpoints, I don't know if you're familiar with them. Counterpoints,
I know
he apparently
counterpoints.
he starts without my ask. He starts messaging her like, "Why are you not here? You said you'd be here, XYZ." Then she comes on, and then she starts gracing us with her presence, basically like treating like her being there was like a gift. And I don't know, the whole time she was just whiny about it. I don't know why she was so whiny.
She's a whiny person. Her and counterpoints seem to be pretty tight, and like I don't think it's bad necessarily that bad that you had her on Hippy Dippy, because actually that to me that's fine, because you always have you would have had a decent amount of people there who were going at her throat, and
Yeah,
that's really
don't
just
worry. Destiny was there to push back.
um like in a debate format, I think it's okay. Like, I don't want to say that like I don't think any of these people should be like challenged in any way whatsoever. I mean, I suppose that there are some people that like maybe we like I would be fine, like, I don't know, child molesters and stuff. Like, I wouldn't want them to have a platform. And I know you have an extremely anti child molester stance. So, although funny enough,
I have yet to
I,
be convinced of the alternative.
I imagine that Destiny may not have known about this, but Sam Hyde, he has some problems in that. But I'm kind of kidding here. It is true that he does, but like, yeah, I wouldn't fault Destiny for not getting into that. Anyway, I'm pretty tired. I just want to say a couple of other things, and why don't I say like one last thing, then you say one last thing, and
Sure.
just do. But okay, so I guess like one last thought that I wanted to throw out there is that there is right now all of this hysteria, in my opinion, over Hassan, but a great deal of other content creators. You could take Hassan completely out of it. And the charges are these people are just, kind of just kicking up a lot of anti-Semitism. And I think like the overwhelming majority of these claims are absolutely baseless. And I think a lot of the people who make them honestly know it, but that's a whole other thing. And to me, it's like pretty amazing that that all these charges are made, and so much like it, just there's so much talk of all this, where at the same time people like Destiny have had like as we were just talking, like just has like played such a huge role with chilling with people um like Nick Fuentes, and also just I could probably name like others, but it's just I feel like there's a huge double standard there. I think it's I don't think that Destiny should like be deplatformed or should be like pay any penalty for hanging with these people that that I think are incredibly problematic, and people who are more meaningfully anti-Semitic than these other people that Hassan, for instance, gets blamed for supposedly like just spreading them as man, my brain is like really short circuiting now. But yeah, so I think that there's a big double standard there. And then the last thing that I just wanted to say, other than thank you for having me here, is that just one final thing with LonerBox. I'll send you that video. I think it's representative of a good argument or a good collection of arguments as to some of the things that I've said. But really, the one thing that I came here to say, talk about, was their trip to Israel, and it's just like when you have, in my opinion, when you have conversations like he had with Elon Levy and whatnot, and you are connected to something like that, and people will see that and just like, man, yeah, this is how I get when I'm like really like when I really get tired. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, you know what? I guess I'm making a version of an argument that I already made before. I had a couple other things to say, but I think I need to know kind of like to uh, cut off when I need to. So I'm just going to you can say a couple things and I'll answer, but I should get going in a sec.
Sure, no worries. I don't need to keep you on that.
I've reached my limit.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I'll try to make it short, and I got to still cover the Polish elections that are coming soon. So I got to do a whole segment breaking down all the candidates for our audience that doesn't know them. So I, I can't answer for a lot of this Destiny stuff. I mean, some of it I do know, like the Nick Fuentes old stuff, but I didn't know the Lauren Southern stuff. But I mean, more so the conversations he's had recently, because I just haven't watched them, right? What I have watched more of is LonerBox's coverage, and I also do know, I do see LonerBox's chat, and I gotta be honest, you can say whatever you want about like the anonymous accounts on Twitter or the Taliban, but I don't see any dehumanization of Muslims or Palestinians from LonerBox's community. I go in that chat quite frequently, and I would say that while there's people in there that will say things I disagree with, I'll go in there and some of them will burn me for some of the things that I will say. But I don't think it's a community that engages in a lot of dehumanization. And as far as I know, when I see somebody do that, LonerBox is pretty quick to like jump on top of it. And
I've never seen. I mean, first of all, he has, I believe, some Lebanese. Am I wrong about that?
He's Lebanese, yes.
Yes. So I have never seen him, like, I don't know, maybe there's like some like meme shit where he's like engaging in something like that in sort of like a like dark joking kind of way, but I don't think he would ever actually like do that himself. I'm saying, like, I mean, that there's still like a great deal of the Destiny community is part of his community. It's not like they
part
just
of mine. I probably still got like 10% or 15% in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, all I can tell you is that there are just tons of people that I end up talking to who, I mean, I have like little Twitter interactions with nobodies who talk to me, and there's just, and also when I go on like Reddit pages and whatnot, I will see just a great deal of people who are extremely pro Zionist, who just, and not only like Zionists, but people who are just on what I would regard as on the extreme of all of that, who just talk about Destiny and LonerBox pretty favorably. And maybe sometimes you'll see them say like, yeah, like they're
Do you think this is substantive based on positions or substantive based on parasocial relationships? And I think this is something we probably should have talked about earlier, because streaming is a little bit different than like, this isn't like an academic setting where you're like, I hate that guy because he just made that academic argument in favor of this horrible thing. People get to know these people as like friends and stuff. And since he's hanging out with Destiny, these people see Loner, they get to know Loner, They get to like know like him, all his little quirks and stuff that he does or whatever, and they get to
It
like him. And I don't know if like I would be interested in seeing them say like, man, I like LonerBox because he believes that Israel deserves to take this percentage of the West Bank, or I think Loner's position is good because he believes that Israel owns Judea and Samaria, or that would be something that I think would be a substantive thing we could like tangle with.
I should have really just left my criticism of all this at, because the thing is like, um you know, I came into this thinking like that I would just say like that the man, I'm sorry, like
It's okay. You don't
my
need to apologize. Just you can be silent for 10 seconds. I'll survive, man.
yeah, it's just like I really do like my I some days have like just days where I'm like this due to the combination of the medication that I take and my just like, just severe sleep issues. With that and my ADD, there are just points where I just start sounding like fucking, I don't usually say this word, but just like fucking retarded. Um, so can you remind me what you were saying?
I was saying that I don't know how substantive that like some of these Twitter accounts being like Loner boxes, because the way he framed it too wasn't like we love Loner. Loner's great. He's so great for Israel. The way they frame it, he's like he's the only one that isn't insane.
Okay, of course,
And
of course.
it's really easy to believe someone isn't insane once you've gotten to hear them speak for more than 3 hours, you know?
I get you, man. I mean, it's a whole combination of things. That I'm just saying that the people who seem to be pro LonerBox or just who are big fans. I never see anyone that seems like substantially like anyone who says that they are pro-Palestinian and is like a big LonerBox fan. I've never seen anyone where I either felt like they were bullshitting me about being pro-Palestinian, or they just clearly didn't have like a real idea of what meaningful like being actually pro-Palestinian, like what that involves. Like these are people who really their entire understanding of the argument comes from like the DGG sphere, and it's just like it's more than anything. I'm not basing it on random Twitter people and whatnot. I'm basing it on his output. I'm basing it on the fact that he is always in opposition to nearly every single a person who is just like a good authority on the matter. I asked him a few months ago, like what
What type of, I'm sorry, I don't want to concentrate. I don't want to do too many specifics right now because of, your state. But like, are there like specific like authorities that you would point to in this instance?
Sure. Right off the bat, I've seen him vociferously just call people like Mehdi Hassan, basically I have never seen anyone that has had a debate with anyone who with Destiny or just every single I've never seen him oh man, you know what, I need to this is going to be meme too much.
Dude, if you need to tap out, man, go to bed.
Brain broken. I'll tell you what, I will I have like a busy couple weeks, But at some point, I'll check back in with you. I'm going to send you that video, and I'm going to. It's always good. Like next time we talk, let's just set a goal of the conversation being like maximum like an hour and 15 minutes, because sometimes I can go a lot longer and just be on point.
Sure, I
But
think it might also help if we had these points maybe written down in advance. So, you know,
that'd be great.
we could go back to it and
Yeah.
sort of so like for example, if you want to bring something up from a video, you'll have the like boom, here you go. We can look at it right now.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out kind of like with my limitations, kind of like how to I may just kind of make the decision of not kind of like going into debate arenas, because just like I do have these uh like there's certain days where I can these days where I can talk and I'm just like fine, and that I did what wasn't totally like this before, like on Hippy Dippy maybe I would have like a moment or two where I had like a brain fart, but I could just kind of like go and go and go. My ability to do that has diminished substantially over the past few years as my sleep issue has just kind of like persisted. But yeah, my point is that I'm trying to like figure out how I can, because I want to meaningfully engage with this aspect of the internet as I'm making new polished written content. But yeah, I have to kind of figure out a way to come in and find that point where I know that I'm not like uh, I'm kind of like beyond the point that where I can like uh, communicate properly. So, but I don't like I want to just say like I enjoyed this conversation overall. Like I appreciate you kind of like just having me on real quick, and it's good to catch up a little bit. I'd love to come out to Ukraine, but we'll see if that's possible. All right, man.
Sure. I don't know if did I get to make it like a quick ending thing? I don't remember if I did.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Go for it.
it won't be anything new. It'll just be me summarizing. My main problem, honestly, is just with the idea of it isn't unreasonable to assume that LonerBox is a paid Israeli shill. Knowing his positions, knowing like he has positions that in Israel would be completely outside of the political mainstream when it comes to settlers, knowing that I've seen him specifically say that he doesn't believe that Israel deserves the Gaza Strip. He believes that many of the settlers should be kicked out. And seeing him go around on this 2 week tour, I can understand why someone would be hesitant to see anyone visit Israel if you're pro Palestine, considering the type of information that could get into your head and then bounce around and then be regurgitated. But I mean, I don't see anything particularly from the 2 weeks that would make me think that he was paid or that he was working as a propagandist for the Israeli state. I could understand someone being upset about him not being aggressive enough because of the style of how those interviews were done for collecting for bigger projects. But it's one thing to say, you need to be more aggressive. You're too buddy buddy with these people. I remember I had a sit down talk with Destiny in Ohio during the canvassing. No, it wasn't Ohio. It was it Ohio? Or was it John Ossoff? I think it was Ohio. And during that canvassing, I had a sit down meeting, talk with Destiny about his conversation with Ben Shapiro. I was like, dude, you need to be more aggressive with him. You need to be more
Yeah.
aggressive with him on Ukraine. He's weak on this stuff. This is a guy that's supposed to, be like, we're so tough in America for a pop. And now he's caving to like populist upheaval within his party and keeping his mouth shut on the war when 2 years ago he would have been completely different. And so I agree that you can like give critiques about the aggression and how these interviews should be done. I'll also say a formal debate environment is different than an interview for documentary or for research purposes. My only main point is it's one thing to disagree with how the interviews are done, but to even entertain being a paid Israeli shill when you're a lefty content creator who tries to present themselves as independent by people powered, that I'm not backed by big institutions. This is stuff that could, I mean, you might not think it's career killer, but it's certainly career damager. It's certainly the type of
Oh,
thing that would hurt credibility. And so I just want to make sure
sure.
when we make these claims, like we don't do boy cried wolf, because if I'm worried that like when we find, oh, this person's paid, this person is paid, you know, it's gonna be treated like, oh, it's another loaner box situation.
And you know, my response to that would be that you know, like the one thing that I kind of like, you know, I came in here thinking like this is like I I haven't kind of like prepared when it comes to like pointing out specifics about LonerBox that like, you know, would make more of an argument, other than like I'm going to come in and just point out that he every step of the way has scoffed and ignored and just completely like just denied the fact that there is a genocide taking place. And it's like he, at this point, he is overlooking so much scholarly, so much evidence. He's just fighting with like, it's, it is so abundantly established at this point, and there isn't anyone who is like meaningfully pro-Palestine, who is like it's just the when people say that it's a genocide, like even if you don't want to use that word, it's like large scale mass industrial slaughter. It's just like they are shooting people in a fucking barrel, and it's like the level to which he just like is constantly going against those who are like advocating for Palestine. And it just he is like I don't know anyone who is really
My only point in response,
what
my only point in
yeah.
response to that, I just want to get to it quick, is even if I was to say that, you know, this is a condemnable thing for Loner to have not done, he could have had that position before going to Israel, after going to Israel. In fact, I think he did have the position before going to Israel. So I mean that I don't know how that impacts like the paid element.
Saying that when someone is it like because I just I'll say this, okay? I think that the idea that he is meaningfully pro-Palestine in a way that is going to like just like I think it's a crock, okay? And that and so you think you have the perception, you know what, fuck, you know, I like I thought that I could just go ahead and make this this argument, but I'm just like, yeah, I
It's
can't
okay, man. You can wrap
overcome
up. You can give a quick
I can't
outro.
overcome my brain brokenness at the moment. And it's a shame because, you know, again, like next time I'll have notes at the ready. I mean, I don't think that he perceives himself as in this way, but like he has just, you know, I mean, there, he has just really just put out a lot of like toxic misinformation, and he like it just it's yeah it's
Hey, dude,
yeah
if you can't get it out, I think it'd be better if you
I
slept
can't get it
instead
out.
of like you know, trying to get it because you might
Yeah,
say something
you're
you don't
right,
mean
you're
or
right.
something, you know.
This is yeah, no, you're totally right. This is like, yeah, this is the problem. I get to places like this where I'm just like, you know, like just brain dead, and I don't kind of like cut the cord. So we'll finish up right here, and thank you for talking. Maybe we can do it again, and next time make it shorter, like we talked. Have an idea of what to go over, and I'll have notes. And like once I feel like I've gotten to the point where I have to tap out, we'll just do a hard out. Okay? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. If you want to, I mean, hey, you reached out, and of course, I'm always open to talk to just about anybody. So, man, if you just feel like on an odd day I'm streaming, you want to send me a message or something, like my door is always open.
Good, man. All right. I feel just the last thing I'll say is that I feel like since I just opened up, we opened up the conversation to like what exactly are your problems with LonerBox. I kind of like owe it to you, or just like the conversation that we initiated to actually hit those things properly. And so I just need to come back one day and do that. All right. So anyway, have a great day. Right? It's like what, like 7 a.m. now?
It is almost 8 a.m.
Oh wow, we've been talking that long.
We've been
Oh my
talking
God.
we've been talking for a bit, man.
Yeah. Okay. Time flies when your brain is broken. I'll talk to you later. Okay.
You too, man. You have a good one. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye bye. Man, that was a long conversation. And now my OBS is acting broken. I do not know why. Did he? No, he broke my OBS. Don't break my OBS, Mr. Vadim. What did my OBS do to you?